All right, y'all. Welcome in officially to our Marketing ROI Masterclass. I'm Dr. Alex Zangar. I'm here with my co-founder, Dr. Will Boyd, which if you're watching on the replay, you probably can't see him, but he's here. And he's actually the marketing genius behind everything that we're doing. And so today is not going to be a what should you do in your marketing kind of workshop. It's not a here's the strategy behind it, here's the ads you should be running, here's the posts you should be doing. It is not that. It's purely going to be the finances of understanding if your paid marketing is working or not. And if you are currently running paid ads, you're going to definitely want to get a pen and paper out. You're probably going to want to pull up your ads manager, or if you have a marketing company that's given you numbers, pull up any numbers you have from that so you can start checking your own numbers against the stuff that we'll be talking through today. And if you aren't running any paid advertising yet, then this will be a great first step in looking at how do you make sure that your ads are profitable long term. And what I find, the reason that we ended up needing to do this workshop is we've had so many people coming to us saying, yes, I'm doing paid marketing. I have no clue if it's working. It's like, how are we going to scale that if we have no clue what the return is? And do we even know if they're profitable or not? And in many cases, as we're looking at business owners, one of the big profit levers that we can pull is increasing throughput of customers, like getting new clients, right? Getting new customers. But if we don't know if our marketing is profitable or not, we don't know if we can pull on that marketing lever and sort of turn up the faucet on our lead flow. For Will and I, this has been the crux of being able to scale as quickly as we have, is that we have profitable lead flow. Like we know if we put in X amount into the machine, we'll get Y amount out. And so we'll talk through that today. And really for us, this has completely been the linchpin of being able to scale very quickly. So today we're going to talk about how we're profitably 10xing our company using paid advertising. And I don't say 10x in like a Grant Cardone 10x baby kind of way. Like literally we're going to be 10xing our company from a revenue standpoint from where we were at maybe 18 months ago to where we'll be at in about 3 months. And just like I'm a numbers guy, so I'm going to share actual numbers. Okay. So like this is what's actually happened over the last 3 months. Last 18 months for us, where you can see at the beginning, it's like, hey, it's slow and ad spend is slow. And then we started getting a little more confidence and a little more confidence and a little more confidence. And finally, something clicked for me. It was actually in August where I had this massive realization that will change significantly how we make these decisions going forward. And I want to share that insight with you because you can tell right here, we made some big changes. And I can't graph it yet. Oh, this is scary. But if I were to graph it for you for this month, our ad spend is actually like up here right now, which I'll be honest, scares the crap out of me. Will, I don't know if this is scaring you a little bit too, the journey we're on.
If we didn't have the team we had in place, yeah, it definitely would have been scary. But we track everything to a T. Like we literally track it daily. So we were able to see it, and it puts my mind at ease. If we weren't tracking it, I would definitely be... let's just say I'd be cleaning my bathroom a lot more because I'd be... You get the gist.
For those of you who maybe couldn't hear it on the recording, because I just realized, Will, on the recording, they probably won't be able to hear your audio because I'm doing it on a separate platform. Will said, yeah, the only reason that we can do this is because we have the right team in place. Otherwise, we'd be in a tight spot. And absolutely, this goes hand in hand with increasing team. So if you were to see the team increase as well, and of course, the cost increase of doing all this is like, yeah, all these things are increasing at the same time, but there's enough margin in there that then profit can keep growing. Will and I can keep paying ourselves what we need to, keep increasing salary as this business grows. And it's really cool when you start seeing, I have a correlation here between I increase ad spend and I increase revenue, right? And we'll be, from where we're at right now, we will 2.5x the company. I think I put this on the next slide. Yeah, we'll 2.5x the company here in the next 3 to 4 months, purely based on the advertising working so well for us. And so when you hear, because I don't want to appear as like, oh my gosh, they have all their crowd. Like, this is just incredible. Like, we are the gurus of scaling. No, we're figuring it out as we go. And that's what I'm sharing. It's like, here's what we're learning as we scale very rapidly through ads. Cool. You're about to learn a much deeper level of understanding your marketing ROI, even better than your marketer understands it. So if you have someone that's doing the marketing for you, I can almost guarantee you that they don't understand the numbers at this level even. And this is coming from two guys. Will and I actually started a marketing agency. This is where we started in the online space. We ran a marketing agency and then marketing consultancy. And we got so good at helping people figure out how to make more money that we realized they couldn't keep it. And it was like, well, why are we going to work so hard to go make more money if at the end of the day you can't pay yourself anymore? And so most importantly, I'm going to help to show you how to get certainty on what's working and what isn't for you right now in the business as you grow. Plus, if you stay to the end, I'm going to show you how to get our brand new ROI tracker that I've been testing out the sort of early version with clients. It's not fully done yet. So this is imperfect action to the max where I'm saying, I'm going to give you this thing and it's almost done. So we'll probably send that out next week. And I'll show you how to get that at the end here. So real quick, who are we? We are CEO Finance Academy. I'm Dr. Alex Sengar there in the middle, Will on the left there, my co-founder. And then we've got an amazing slew. And in fact, we're growing so fast, we don't even have we're missing at least 2 team members on here, Will, probably 3 if we include Kyle, because we've grown so stinking fast in the last couple months. But we're a group of, actually, all of us have run a business before. We've all been business owners. And we have one core mission, which is how can we create consistent financial abundance for founders of companies, their employees, and their families. And we accomplish that mission through 3 things. Number 1, one-on-one mentorship. We actually believe that this is a really important part of getting a handle on your finances, is talking with someone who gets it at the level of a business owner. And so Luis, for example, as you're working with people in our group or anyone else, it's like, hey, you're working with someone who's a business owner themselves. The second piece is education. A lot of us just don't get taught how to look at finances as a business owner. We learn marketing, we learn sales, we learn team growth and leadership, but we don't learn finance. And so we come at it from the perspective of business owners ourselves who had to figure this out the messy way, found a system that worked really well, started sharing it with our clients, and it's turned into what this is. And so piece 2 is education. Piece 3 is systems. How do you set up repeatable financial systems in your business so that you can make this easy, less stressful, and repeatable as you grow the business? So I want you to imagine for a minute that you have this amazing car. I don't know what that car looks like for you. I'm not a car dude, honestly, so I don't even know what this thing is. Is this a Lamborghini? It's probably a Lamborghini. I don't know. Maserati, something great. But you're driving it and you have a blindfold on. Like, how confident are you to push the gas in that very nice, expensive car? No. Like, big mistake. It's an expensive mistake, right? So here's the thing. As a business owner, you might be sitting in the driver's seat of this car and not even know it. And to be fair, like, this is what Will and I realized over the last few months. Like, oh my gosh, we have this machine that we've built that's incredibly scalable. What if we just step on the gas, right? But then the question is, how fast can I step on the gas? Right? That's the real question. It's like, all right, how quickly can I do this without crashing the machine? And on the other side is something that looks like this, where you have all the data in the world and you're like, I've got 1 million numbers on everything, but I have no clue what any of it means, right? Like, yes, we get this. I had someone come through our world a couple of months ago that was like, oh yeah, I have this number and this and this and this, and they were spouting off every number. And I was like, cool. What do you think you need to do next? Like, I have no clue, because I have no clue what to be looking at. I was like, okay, what if we simplify things and only look at the numbers that matter? Like, for example, if I were flying an airplane and it were about to go into a stall, I would want to know that. Like, okay, push the nose down, you're going into a stall. But if I'm looking at the 500 other things and like, oh, but this over here and this over here and this over here, it's like, whoa, we got to clear out the noise as business owners and be able to focus on what matters. So today we're going to talk about 3 steps to profitably scaling your ads. And I will just give the caveat at the beginning that this stuff is not simple. Like, we're going to talk about it and I'm going to simplify it for you, but it is difficult for Will and I too. It is scary for Will and I too. And so if you're in a spot where you're scaling and you're like, man, this feels a little bit nerve-wracking. Yeah, I feel you. We're going to spend more on ads than like this month. We will spend more on ads than what my entire salary would have been as a physical therapist like 5 years ago. And it's like, gut clench, like, oh man, can we make this work moment? And I'll tell you, we're halfway through the month right now. We're like 2.5, almost 3xing our ad spend this month right now. We're halfway through the month, and I'll tell you, like, I'm still holding on to the handlebars, like, whoa, can this thing work? And it totally can. And Elizabeth says, no risk, no reward. No calculated risk, no reward. I'll add that caveat. So I'm going to show you how to make it a calculated risk, because I am not stepping into the dark with this and putting my family's future in jeopardy or the families of our employees in jeopardy. Like, we got a bunch of people riding on us, right, as business owners. And so how do I make calculated risks that I know can pay off? And how do I measure along the way if they're paying off or not? That's what we're going to talk about today. So step 1, as you look at scaling your ads, is actually, or scaling your marketing is actually that you know your capacity. Do you have the team to be able to sell and fulfill on all this new flow? Because otherwise, you can run into a problem where it's like, yeah, turn up the leads. And then you realize that you get completely hammered and you can't fulfill on all of them. Or for example, if you're a solopreneur, you're doing the sales right now. If I had the lead volume that we've got right now, which is like that lead volume kind of scares me a little bit. Will, we booked, what was it, like 26 calls or something on Wednesday? And it was like, oh my gosh, in one day, that is a lot. If I were taking all those sales calls, like we would break immediately, right? And then I couldn't fulfill on things. And so you need to make sure that you have the capacity to scale. And so we go through this whole capacity mapping process with clients, and we have a whole workshop on this where I showed you how to figure out capacity versus demand. This is the snapshot version of it. Go look by department in your company and see, okay, under sales, what's my capacity? So for example, I take someone like, let's say I have Jim, a salesperson, I have Pam, and I have Dwight. Great. So here's my people. I guess I should move these over. Here's my people. Boop. How much capacity do they have? Well, Jim could take, 10 calls a week. Pam could take 12 and Dwight could take 5. How many do they have currently? He's got 8. She's got 10 and he's got 1. It's like, cool. How many do I have available? He's got 2, 2, and 4. Sweet. So I have capacity for a total of 8 extra calls per week or whatever, right? So I'm figuring out what is the capacity of my sales machine right now, and do I have extra bandwidth to fill up? And then I'm going to do the same thing within delivery. Like I'm curious, and you can put this in the comments right now. If you were to triple your company right now from the volume that you're doing, could you handle the delivery of that without hiring anyone else? Yes or no in the comments right now. Could you triple delivery without hiring? We've got some, certain death say some, right? Many say nope. So this is really important because it's like, all right, if I'm going to, and I'm not saying that you're going to triple overnight, right? But it's good to know like what role specifically is going to be my squeeze point. And then how can I solve that so that I can make sure that I'm not going to hit that capacity right away? Conversely, if you look at this and you're like, yeah, we have so much capacity. Cool. That's great. Then like, yeah, go fill that thing up, right? It means we've maybe overbuilt for where we're at right now. So we need to find the next bottleneck either in your sales or your delivery. And you're just always balancing capacity versus demand. I love something called the theory of constraints. There's a great book called The Goal. It's so nerdy by a guy named Eli Goldratt who talks about the theory of constraints. It's like, what is the next thing going to be that limits the business? And understanding that becomes so powerful. And as we've scaled, we've really had to lean into that. And we've done it wrong plenty. Like we've made hires. And then we're going through this right now. We made a hire. We changed something in our marketing. It's like, geez. Well, we maybe hired that role too fast. It's like, all right, it's going to take a month more to fill that up than we expected. So this stuff is an imperfect science, but you might as well at least have some reasoning and some numbers behind this. So decide if and when you need to hire to fill that next bottleneck. That's step 1. Cool. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty stuff you're here for. Step 2 of scaling profitably through ads, or even knowing what the heck your ads are doing for you in the first place, is to find what I call your true ROI. Okay? How do we define this? Well, if we look at ads ROI, if we take a step back and look 10,000 feet, ads ROI, or the return on my investment, is just how much money did I make divided by how much I spent, right? So there's my formula. You can write that down. We'll get a lot more specific with this in just a minute. That's my ROI, my return on investment. So here's an example. If I made $100 from ads, but I spent $33, 100 divided by 33, it's like a 3x ROI. Cool. Now, you will hear from marketing gurus online all the time, oh, we're getting 27x ROI. We were getting 8x ROI. But here's the thing. Your marketer, whoever they are, is lying to you. And this is no shade to them. It's because they're only looking at part of the business, the marketing. You as the business owner can't just look at marketing, though, as you're assessing ROI. So this is the ROI lie. When I first read this slide, by the way, it looked like Rolly to me. I was like, wait, what does this say? The ROI lie is, oh yeah, you just put some money into ads and it goes through your funnel or whatever your system is for getting clients or customers, and then customers pop out the other end. And so your ROI might look like this. Oh, if you put 33 into ads, it goes through your funnel and you made $100 out the end, you got a 3x ROI, right? I want you to watch every single time you hear people online sharing their ROIs and mentally note, that's a lie. because that might be their advertising ROI, but I guarantee they're not keeping all of that. So let's look at reality. And by the way, if you have a marketer right now, you should still know this number, right? They should still tell you, hey, it costs us this much to make this much. Or in other words, how much does it cost you to get one customer? We should know those numbers, yes, but it is not the complete story. Instead, here's reality. We have ad spend. We put it through the funnel or in through the machine. We get customers out the other end. And then guess what we have? We have some direct cost to fulfill on those customers almost always, right? Some cost to fulfill. If you're a product-based business, especially, like this is a big deal. If you have a service-based business where you're providing a paid service, it's a big deal because you have people costs, right? So we need to understand what those direct costs are. So let's label a few of these direct costs. So this, for example, wait, did I skip something? No, I didn't. Okay, so for example, let's assume that we were going through this and the marketer was like, Alex, you're doing great. You spent $33 to make $100. And you're like, yeah, but I have $70 of direct costs after, right? Well, then here's the problem with that math. $100 of revenue minus $33 for ad spend minus $70 of those direct costs. I lose money on that transaction, right? I am not 3x ROIing there. I'm negative. So that's a problem for me. And if the marketer doesn't understand this, and they shouldn't necessarily, it's not their job, right? Their job is to deliver leads or to deliver sales for you. Your job as the CEO is to set up this machine to make it profitable. Like that is literally the job of the CEO. How do I build a machine that's profitable, right? So let's define direct costs for a minute and figure out what those look like in your business. So the definition is all costs for each new sale. Okay. So any incremental cost, whenever you make one sale, you have a direct cost from that thing. So what does that look like? Well, if you run a products-based business or you build something, then your products or materials for the thing that you sell would be a direct cost, right? Under your profit and loss statement, they would call that a cost of goods sold. And most people are like, okay, yeah, I get that one. The second one, though, that a lot of people don't understand and that kind of sneaks out under the P&L in a different spot is your direct labor. So if you sell a service, let's say I have a physical therapy company. I think I mentioned to you, Will and I are physical therapists back in our past life. So if I had a physical therapy practice and I sold physical therapy, then whoever the PT is that's performing that service, they're a direct cost for me. It's direct labor, right? If I had a front desk person, they're not direct labor, they're overhead because they're not directly performing that. And so I might have other labor that's not a direct cost. So we're only going to look right now at direct labor to fulfill on that, okay? If I'm in a construction business, then my contractors who are performing that work would be my direct labor. Anytime you sell something and then you're ultimately having to directly sell someone's time to fulfill on that, they're direct labor for you. Cool? The next piece that a lot of people don't think about is sales commissions, right? If I have a sales commission, a salesperson who's commission-based, and I sell $100 and they make $10 of that, then I can't count that as profit because it's going right out the door to the salesperson, right? Next, if you run a franchise, those franchise royalties that come right off the top, if you have a 5, 6, 7, 8% royalty that you pay back to the franchise, in my mind, that's a direct cost because if I sell $100, I know 8 of it is going out to the franchise. Cool, I'm counting that there. And then the last one that a lot of people don't think about is payment processing. So credit card processing, right? If you use Stripe or Square or some other payment processor and you're paying your 2.5 or 3%, that's a direct cost, right? Every time someone swipes a card, I have to pay that. So I'm collecting all of these direct costs for my business, okay? I want you to think about, if you're sitting here live, write these out, type them in the chat if you're on here. What are the direct costs for your business? And we can get into some examples too as we go. So the real formula then for this direct cash flow is revenue, how much did I make, minus my ad spend. Plus, if I have someone who's actually managing my ads, I like to throw their cost in this as well. So minus the cost for ads management, minus those direct costs to fulfill on whatever product or service I'm selling, that gives me my direct cash flow from ads. Okay, absorb this for just a minute. And then I want you to think about for your business, what are these costs, right? By the way, I like to use a month worth of ad spend and ads management for this. And so I might go back and look at, in October, if I'm spending money on ads, how much did I spend on ads? How much did I spend on the ads management, whoever's running them? And what did I sell from ads, and how much did I have to pay in direct costs for those sales, right? And then I can see last month what was my direct cash flow from ads. So an example here real quick. If I made 100 of revenue, we saw this one, and I spent 33 on ads, but then I had 70 of direct costs. My direct cash flow, negative $3. That's bad. I don't want that, right? Boo, losing money in this business. This is what we want to see. We want to see something like, hey, if I have 100 in revenue or sales, I spent 30 on ads, maybe I only spent 20 on direct costs, and that leaves me with a profit. Now, I'm not saying that, you have to be 50% profitable on everything. I'm not saying that. Just an example of I want to see money left over at the end of the day. Because guess what? You also have other costs in your business. We have not even addressed, how do I run overhead here? How do I make sure I can pay myself a salary, right? So we have to have extra margin in here. And to be honest, that varies for each business, how much that margin needs to be. That's sort of what we work on with our clients is we figure out if this is where your margin is, how big, how many sales do you have to make in order to cover everything, right? Including paying yourself. So true cash flow from ads measures ultimately what's left over after ad spend and your direct costs. Okay, so that true cash flow, that's what we really care about, or direct cash flow. And then quick little formula, my true ROI on ads then, if I'm going to my marketer and I say, what's my ROI on ads? And they tell me 3x, but I'm losing money. Well, that's not my true ROI then, right? My true ROI is what is that true or direct cash flow divided by how much I spent in ads. Okay, so if I spent 100 on ads, I think in that example we spent 33. If I spent 33 on ads and my true or direct cash flow, after all that ended up being, what do we use in that example, $47, then it's whatever 47 divided by 33 is. Let's do that on the calculator right now. 47 over 33. Sweet, that's a 1.4x ROI, right? Meaning, so let's look at that, 1.4x. Meaning, hey, I am actually making more money than I'm spending here. If I put in $33, I not only get all those $33 back to pay for ads and all the expenses of covering my direct costs, but I'm left with 47 afterwards. Sweet. I might be able to run my business on that. So true ROI tells us the real return multiple on ad spend, not inflated by your marketer. And this true cash flow that we just talked about, or direct cash flow, is one of the most important numbers in your paid advertising, but there's one that matters even more. So piece 3 here is to understand your ROI timing, because I want you to imagine that we went through all the numbers and we had a true ROI of 5x. Right? It's this is glorious. I'm making 5x. In other words, for every dollar I put in, I keep $5 out the back end. But you didn't receive that for 12 months after spending on your ads. It's that's great, but I don't get it for another 12 months. Then we get into what we call the sinking ship scenario, where it's maybe I spend $10,000 on ads and I have that 5x ROI. Someday I'll make $50,000, but I only collect $5,000 upfront. We were in that boat in our business, and we had enough other revenue coming in that could cover for that. But we used to have a 6-month payment plan. And every time someone would join, because of our acquisition cost, we would lose money on that client the first month. And we started seeing this is going to be hard to scale. And so instead, we want to see that 1 month cash collected. In other words, how much do I collect in month 1? I want that to be greater than my ad spend and direct costs. In other words, I need to make money in month 1 on my ads, or it becomes very difficult to scale. We have to lean on other income sources in order to scale this. So let's give an example here. Positive 1 month cash flow would be all right, if I collected $20,000 in cash this month by spending $10,000 in ads at a sales commission of, let's call it 10% in this case, which is $2,000, and I had some fulfillment costs of $3,000 on that, then I would have $5,000 left over as my kind of true or direct cash flow. I'm positive in month 1. Guess what you have built there? An incredible marketing machine that you may be able to scale. Right? This is step 1 of, can I scale my ads? Am I making money in month 1 or not? Because if you're losing money, it will tank. Will, thank you so much, man. Go on board. So now the question is, what can I do to shrink or shorten my cash collection window? How can I collect cash upfront quicker? There's a bunch of different things. Here's 5 ideas. Number 1, you can offer a paid in full discount. That's what we do, for example. So we offer a $1,000 discount if someone pays upfront versus if they pay over a payment plan. And the reason being, if you think about it, you become the credit card company if you're financing someone, right? If you're self-financing, like you're going to have to charge interest on that. So you may offer a paid in full discount. You might shorten your payment terms. So instead of offering clients net 60 terms, maybe they're net 40, maybe they're net 30, right? You can shorten payment terms. You can change your offer and how you're bundling things and sort of how your payment cycle works, period. This is what we did, right? We just said, cool, we are going to offer a paid in full discount. Instead of collecting over 6 months, we're going to collect in 3 months maximum. And you might say, well, my offer is month to month, but instead I'm going to offer packages where I get paid up front. So for a lot of our service-based business owners, this is one that we lean into heavily. If you run a brick and mortar practice, maybe you're a chiropractic office, instead of offering session to session prices, say, hey, you know what? We've got our gold package that gets you this outcome, usually takes us about 6 visits and it costs this much. Cool. You can get paid upfront for things instead of session to session. My orthodontist did that, for example. They said, look, it's not going to be session to session. It's going to cost you $5,000. And if you pay it upfront at the beginning, then we'll offer you $1,000 off. I was like, sweet, that's mine. Let's do that. And they got paid all upfront, right? And then the last one, there's something called factoring. If you're not really familiar with it, you can look it up. But it's basically, if you have a bunch of accounts receivable or clients who owe you money, you can go to these factoring companies and sell them those contracts essentially, and they'll give you money up front. Now, it can be expensive. I'll just tell you that. Some businesses have to factor, and they live and die by it depending on their business model. I don't love it because it's a little bit sharky in their terms, but we have a couple of businesses that was the only way their cash flow could work when they have these big long-term contracts. And again, I don't love it, but it's an option in the short term for some people. All right. So this last little piece here becomes really important, especially if you're collecting money. Like we run a coaching business, right? If you run a business where you sell something that has a payment plan of some sort, this metric becomes one of your most important, and it's percent of cash collected up front. It's how much cash did I collect divided by the total sale value. And so under a year-long payment plan, your cash collected up front would be 1 divided by 12, which is not good, right? Versus if you're collecting more cash up front, this is a great sign that, hey, your advertising is going to be able to be more scalable since we're collecting more cash up front. Just a number that really makes sense in our business. And then a quick bonus here for you. This piece of mapping your path becomes so important in your ads. So for example, when I say mapping your path, I want you to map the path that your client takes through your pipeline. So maybe the first one is, and I'll just show you, this is our path. Someone comes in through an ad, they become a lead, quote unquote. In fact, our path is so weird. We have a crazy path right now. We'll call it ad. They come in, they book a call directly with us. We actually don't even get name and phone number at the top end for most of our people. Weird funnel, but it works. And then they book a call for us, right? And then that's like a 15-minute call. Then we do a deep dive analysis with them that's a 60-minute call. And then they're deciding if they're going to buy or not, right? So this is our path. Here's why this becomes so important. Map out your path. We did this with a solar company 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and it was like, all right, well, they go knock a door, and then someone answers the door, and then they do a roof assessment where they're actually getting up on the roof, and then we send them a quote, and then they have to have the insurance company come out and verify it, and then after that, the owner signs, and then we fulfill on it. It's like, cool, those are all the paths. What is your percentage at each of those? In other words, how many go from knocked door to roof inspection? Cool. How many go from roof inspection to a quote given? Like 100% there. Cool. How many go from roof inspection to getting the insurance adjuster out? Oh, like 90%. Great. How many go from this? And so we mapped out the path and what percentage we had converting at each step. And the really important thing here becomes, as you're scaling ads, you can scale in one of two ways. You can scale by just dumping more on the front end of the funnel, and you can scale by improving the conversion at each step. So for example, for us, one of our main metrics that we're looking at right now is show up rate. Like, cool, we can book 1 million calls, but what if only 10% of them show up? That doesn't work, right? And so there's this balance between making sure that you know each step, each conversion percentage at each step in your pipeline, and that you can measure this. Because if you can't measure it, and if you don't know the steps, I can guarantee it's going to be very difficult to scale profitably. Because not only do you have to put more ad spend into a system, but you need to improve these metrics along the way, most likely, to be able to keep this profitable. And so really important to map out your path and get those percentages for each of those. So then there are really only two things that matter in this whole thing. How much do you actually keep from each sale and when you collect the money? And then I'm going to give you these 3 rules that make this incredibly important that you understand this. Number 1, it is likely going to get more expensive as you scale. And when I say what's going to get more expensive, your cost to acquire a customer. We didn't cover this in detail today, but this is one of the core metrics that I'd be looking at. We have a whole KPI workshop that we did a couple weeks ago that you can get for free from our website. But your cost of customer acquisition, it's how many dollars do I need to put in to get one customer, right? So for example, let's say that you start off at a customer acquisition of, I don't know, it cost me $2,000 to get a customer. As you scale your ads, it is likely to get more expensive. And so if you're making all your projections around like, well, it's going to cost me $2,000 a month or $2,000 a patient or $2,000 a client. And you're like, I want to 6X my ad spend. It's likely going to go up just because it gets more expensive as you scale per lead. And so you just need to factor that in. I don't know what that number is going to look like for you. You just need to expect it. And so what that means is we need to find one metric that we're tracking in this whole ads process to make sure that it's not breaking. So for example, for us, as I looked at our numbers, I said, you know what? The most important number for us is cost per booked call. Because I know that if cost per booked call stays in this range, we're okay. And we'll talk about that here in the 3rd rule. So instead of looking at a million different metrics, and instead of having that whole airplane dashboard of all the things that I could see, because I do have all those metrics in front of me if I wanted, instead I just focus on that one metric as we're scaling. I say, is that cost going up? And for you, it might be cost per sale. It might be cost per lead. It might be cost per booked call. It might be cost per appointment. Whatever that looks like for you and your business, you need to identify what's the one metric that really affects my cost of acquiring a customer that tells me, are the ads themselves getting more expensive? That way I can zone in on that one thing and just be like, cool, that's the one number. So for example, for us, it's cost per booked call. I actually found out that for us, instead of cost per booked call, it's cost per qualified booked call. Like that's the one metric that matters for me because we were getting a bunch of unqualified people through our pipeline and we had to make a change this week. So my cost per call is going to skyrocket now. It's going to go up by close to double, but my cost per qualified book call will stay the same or should stay close to it. And so that's my one metric. And I get a report on that every single day from my team. Not from my marketing team. I actually have an internal assistant that's doing this for us. So I said, hey, I want you to go track this number every day. How much did we spend on ads? How many people did we get in as a booked call? Boom, there's my cost per book call. So I can see as we're scaling, is this number going up or not? And it's like the front end number. It's like I can get real-time data on that. I'm not waiting for a month to see what my cost per customer acquisition is. I know within I look at it in sort of a 3-day time window. Like I know if things are getting screwed up or not. So I can say, whoa, pause, not profitable, slow down the train. And we will have days where it spikes up, where I was like, whoa, that was terrible. But then the next day it'll drop back down and I can't let my emotions go so crazy with that one number. Instead, I need to say, you know what? I'm going to look at my 1-week average on this or 3-day average, whatever number you feel like. I like my 1-week average. It's like, cool, we're within what we need to be. And this is the last step. You need to define your ceiling. What do I mean by that? At some point, your cost of acquiring a customer could get so expensive that it stops making sense to do paid advertising, right? Where really ultimately for me, it's 1 month cash flow. If 1 month cash flow starts going negative, it's like, whoa, big bad. We have enough other recurring revenue coming in that we can cover our other baseline expenses. So it's like, cool. I know that at least for our new marketing, it cannot go more expensive than what we're paying, right? In ads. And so for me, I defined a ceiling for our cost to book a call. So for us, I know right now it's like $200. It's got to change now because we changed our qualifiers, but it's like, sweet. As long as I stay under $200, I'm good. So how did I decide that? Well, I went back to my pipeline and I said, sweet, I'm going to map this out. If I spend this much to get a book call and X% show up, how many of those will book a call? Sweet. How many of those will show up to their second call? Cool. How many of those will convert? Cool. So what's my total cost of customer acquisition? Boom. Like for us right now, I know that we can spend like $4,000 to acquire a customer. And as long as we're under that, all the rest of the numbers work out. But this is the leading number here that tells me, are the ads themselves working? Because here's the problem. There's not just one variable as you look at your marketing. There's ad costs, There's conversion percentages between all these different things. It's like, oh, what do I look at? And for me, as we're scaling the advertising, I'm looking at how are the advertising costs changing? And on the back end, we'll work with the sales team and our pipeline to make the other things better. So you need to pick one number and you need to define the ceiling for that. And if it goes past that ceiling, it's like, oop, hit the brakes, reassess, retest ad creatives, retest things, right? So what I'm not saying is, here's your marketing strategy. What I'm saying is, here's how to think about the financials of scaling through advertising. So if you really want to understand and rapidly scale profitable ads, then let's talk. This is what we do at CEO Finance Academy. This is part of our sort of suite of what we get into with clients in helping them really understand, what am I doing financially? What are the numbers that I need to look at? How much do I need to sell, for example, in order to hit my targets? How much do I even need to take home? How do I pay myself? How much should I save for taxes? What do my margins need to look like? Wouldn't it be nice to have an actual business owner who understands this stuff sitting down with you one-on-one to go through the numbers of your business? That's what we do in CEO Finance Academy. And if you want to jam with us, hop on a call. I'll drop our link below here. For those who are live on the Zoom, I'll drop it. For those who are in the replay, we'll drop it too. What we do is we sit down for 15 minutes. And if we find out in those 15 minutes, it's like, hey, you don't have a finance management problem, you have a marketing problem, cool. We'll point you towards specific resources that we have for that. If it's like, hey, it actually might make sense to talk, sweet, let's deep dive on your numbers. And you'll come sit down with one of our actual business owners who has previously run a successful company, and we'll sit down and look at the numbers together. We'll probably pull through your P&L a little bit, figure out where you at, what do the targets need to look like for you, and if it makes sense for us to engage together or not. But as part of this as well, as we roll out this new ROI tracker, I'll just give it to you for free. Cool? I will have it done next week. So if you sign up, I'll go back through and I'll see who signed up coming from this workshop, and we'll send it over to you through email in the next, by the end of the month, because we got Thanksgiving coming up. Cool? All right, y'all. So I'll drop this link here. You can book a call with us, and I've got a little bit of time for Q&A here as well, if you've got some, because I see some questions rolling in here, and I'm happy to answer those as we go. And I'll just tell you, if I had not figured this stuff out, then there was a significant opportunity cost for us in not scaling our ads. Like right now, I think I told you we're going to spend like 80, 90K over the next month on ads. And while that feels intensely like a lot of money right now to spend on ads, by the other token, it's like, well, we have this machine and the machine can handle it. And we have all the people we need to handle that kind of scale. And we know that in month one, we can collect more than what we're spending. In fact, we're doing far better than that. It's like, why would I not do that? So there's a significant expense to not scaling something that for us is very profitable. And at the end of the day, provides what we feel like is a really great end result for people. And so now I'll open the floor to questions. And we had one come in from Ian, so we'll talk through that. And I'll just leave with this. If you're at the spot where you're not paying for ads yet, you need both decent ads strategy, but also math behind you. And if the math doesn't work out, then you can't keep scaling it. And I'll just tell you, at the beginning, we spent lots of money. I think we spent $9,000 before we made our first sale through paid ads. And this was coming from people who knew what we were doing in the advertising space. And so just cranking up ad spend isn't always the answer. It's test crap. Test a lot of crap until you figure out what works. And then when you find something that works, the answer is often do more of that thing that works rather than going to find the new shiny thing. So for us, for example, it's like, cool. We knew that we had one product and one acquisition channel, which for us is Facebook and Instagram ads. And we just got to push the throttle on that till we got to $1 million run rate. Sweet. I actually think that we're going to get that to about a $3 million run rate before we even have to think about other ads platforms, honestly. We're just barely starting to dabble in things like YouTube and LinkedIn. It's like, no, we found one platform and we just got really good at the numbers for that one thing. And then I track stuff like crazy so that I make sure that as we're scaling, the system doesn't break. All right, let's take some questions here. In the math example for true cash flow for the revenue, you're using gross revenue. Are you using gross revenue or trying to calculate the new revenue that came in from those ads? I am using new revenue from the ads because I don't care about all the other revenue in my business. I want to know, what are the ads producing for me, right? And so you might have to go back into your payment processing system or your point of sale system to figure out what revenue came from ads. And if you can't do that, then it becomes difficult to figure out how to scale that, right? And so when we've sat down to do marketing audits with our clients, I'm usually going into their ads manager to figure out their ads costs. And then we're going into their point of sale or their payment processor to figure out which ads came from or which revenue came from those ads. I'll tell you, if you have someone doing your paid marketing for you, they should help you be able to set up the tracking metrics or the right tracking tools to be able to show what revenue came from ads. For example, we had a client that they were getting numbers from their marketer that looked too good to be true. It was like, I don't know. Like, I just had this feeling like, I don't know. So we ran through the numbers and they were getting like a 5x ROI, true ROI on the stuff, which was just wild. It was 5 to 7x across things. And so I said, well, we don't know if their tracking is accurate. So let's do something. Let's test increasing the budget. So we use like a $500 or $1,000 test budget to drive up the ad spend, and we saw no change in what they were reporting for sales. It's like, oh, either your ads aren't scalable or the tracking that they have for you is crap. And they had another marketing company come in and do an audit, and their tracking was pure crap. They didn't have their pixels right. They were reporting a bunch of sales that weren't coming from the ads. And so a lot of this hinges on having good data in the first place. But the nice thing is when you do a deep dive to go figure out what is working and what isn't, it opens your eyes to what's actually happening in your marketing. And I'll just tell you, in my experience, most of the time, if you just think that your marketer is doing a great job and you just trust them completely and you don't check for yourself what's going on, you might get really disappointed because you are hiring this person to like go do the thing for you. Most marketers actually focus on like the creative side of marketing and not so much the numbers and metrics and reporting of those things. And I say this as a former marketer. Like, we ran a marketing agency and my business partner, Will, he's the creative one and I'm the numbers one. And so we had this great synergy going on where he could get things creative and up there. And then I would track all the metrics on the back end. And if you don't have good numbers or you don't have good confidence in your numbers, do the work to go make that happen. If you want someone sitting down doing that with you, hey, that's what we do inside CEO Finance Academy. But otherwise, use reality. In other words, Ian, to answer your question, use reality. What actually happened from those ads? What can we track back to them? Not just all your revenue. Cool. Any other questions? If not, we'll adjourn. Was this helpful? If so, I'm curious what was most helpful. I'll tell you my takeaway from this whole thing is if I knew this stuff earlier, we'd be doing triple where we are right now, easily. Probably close to 10x because I didn't know how soon am I collecting the cash. And I didn't know that, in month one, I'm cash flow positive. And so now let's finish with this question. Well, Alex, how much should I spend on ads? Well, we're spending like 90% of our budget on ads. Now, we run a totally different business than probably most of you do. We have low overhead, right? We don't have a brick and mortar space. We run an online business. So our overhead is relatively low compared to many businesses. Our product costs are also people costs, right? It's like we have coaches. That's our cost. So our overhead's relatively low. So our business won't map to yours. But I'll just tell you, I think that the advice to spend 10% on marketing got pulled from somewhere. I don't want to even know where it got pulled from, but I don't believe it. Because if you have a marketing machine that can crank for you, my thought is, I don't care if it's at 10% of my budget. I want to do as much marketing as I can, making it profitable and giving myself a big enough margin. Ooh, I wanted to end with this. I didn't put this in the slides. I should have. If let's say you have, a 10K ads budget. No, let's go like this. Let's say we have 100K of revenue. Okay, so here's my revenue, 100K. And here's my little 10K ads budget. So this is ads. Here's my my other direct costs. So cost of goods sold, all the other direct costs that we had. Here's my overhead. And then the rest of it up at the top is my profit. And let's say that's, 20K of profit, right? So here's my working theory. And this is what we're finding to be true in our business. What if instead I were doing 200K? And in this case, my ads budget, instead of being 10K, is now, let's call it 25 because it's not quite going to scale linearly. So there's that, ads. My direct costs are going to stay proportionate to this. So in this case, I'm just going to come up with numbers here. But let's say here's my direct costs. They stay proportionate, right? If I double my revenue, I double my direct costs. But my overhead does not have to double, right? If that's the case, where it's like, cool, I can keep my overhead, maybe it has to grow a little bit, but it doesn't double. That is where the arbitrage comes in for profit. So maybe instead of 40K profit, maybe I'm only at 35. Sweet. I'm at 35K profit. That's a lot more than 20K profit. All right, it's nearly freaking double. And so the arbitrage in your business actually comes in being able to do as much scale as you can with the overhead that you've got, because these direct costs will probably double, right? This ad spend will probably more than double if you want to double the business. But it's in how can I keep my overhead relatively fixed while scaling everything else? And that is your job as a CEO, to figure out the puzzle of how you build a business like this. And I'll tell you this last piece and then we'll end here. If you don't have scalable marketing yet, challenge yourself to get to a place where you can. Maybe you're a brick and mortar and you have a local business that is defined by boundaries where you have you probably actually have a max that you can spend. I get it. I want to challenge you to look at how can I create scalability in my marketing so that I can make this thing happen. And I'll just tell you, for us, obviously we run a nationwide company, so this is easier for us. Like, we have a very high ceiling in terms of what we could spend on ads, which also means that we have a very high ceiling in terms of where the business can go. So for me, my goal is not, how can I, wring my hands? How can I only spend X on ads? My goal is next year I want to spend 3 million on ads. Like, sweet. How can I create a machine that is capable of spending 3 million on ads profitably to yield in our case, probably be somewhere around 30% profit margin? That's the game. And then this all just becomes a game once you get this here. So that's where I'll leave the thought today. Thank you all. Appreciate you. And this has been fun for me. I hope it's been as fun for you. We'll send you all the replay. If you want more of our workshops, you can go to ceofinanceacademy.com and hit our workshops page. We have so many of these. It's just ridiculous at this point. This will be the last one for a while because we just cranked out like 10 in the last few months. And if we need to talk one-on-one, let's talk. Go hit the link below. I'll drop it here in the chat one last time. And y'all, thanks for being here. Catch you on the next one. Bye, crew.